For the Budget Committee meeting at 6:06 PM. We have Glenn, Jeff, and Patrick. Jason,
No Shelley, I don't see Shelley.
are you on this? Okay. You get everyone else?
I just walked in, she wasn't here when I saw her.
I thought she walked in with you, no?
No.
Okay.
No, that was the.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
We did see two people, Jason.
thank you for spending it with
Saying.
us. It's my fault.
People sit next to you, they get it.
He's mowing the lawn first.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay, let's keep going. Approval of the agenda,
So moved. Second.
all in favor? Approval of the minutes,
Moved. Second.
Glenn and Jeff, all in favor?
I see you're sneaking that.
Any public participation, Josh?
No.
Okay, moving right along. Discussion and next steps. 23-24 year-end number now.
Yes, so Torrington Public Schools ended the fiscal year 2023-2024 with a surplus of $302,601.17.
Wait a minute, can you say that again? 302,
601.17.
okay?
We're gonna request that the surplus be placed into the capital reserve fund for IT and facilities projects to be determined at a later date.
Say that again. You're gonna request
We are gonna
the city, right?
We're gonna request that the city place the surplus funds into the capital reserve fund for IT and facilities projects to be determined at a later date.
Okay,
This will hopefully offset
Bless you.
bless you.
Bless you.
the zero we received for capital funding.
Okay,
I would exactly call that an offset.
yeah.
Yes,
So that letter will be written, sent to the city.
it's written, it just needs to be signed by Michael and myself. I just wanted to go over
Yep,
it
yep.
in this meeting tonight or in the full board meeting, whatever you tell me to do, and then we'll sign it and send it over to the mayor.
Full board?
It's a recommendation from this board to the full board to have, direct me to write a letter and signed by Scott and I to
Okay.
allocate that amount. Yes, that would be the next step.
We recommend, anyone opposed?
No?
Okay. we'll
I'll bring the
recommend-
letter next
It'll
full
be
board meeting
Full
also.
board meeting, perfect.
So to be official with this, do we have to do an action item and actually do it?
Once it's
No.
recommended to
Okay.
the full board out of this committee, the full board can take action that we draft a letter.
Right. Okay. So next is monthly financials. Oh, go ahead,
Can I ask
sorry,
a couple
Jeff.
questions
Yep.
about the year end?
Sure.
Would that be okay, Scott? Did we ever get any resolution to the sewer discrepancy?
We are still working on it. It will definitely, it's definitely on the radar for this year. And
And do we?
just in full transparency, just didn't get to it.
Okay.
Had a lot going on and I had to prioritize, and that is high on the, that's more of a burn my saddle at this point, so it will be addressed at some point, so.
Okay. Do we pay them once or twice a year, do we know?
I believe we pay it once, but I can confirm that because, let me check that, because I have it up. Because I think, I don't want to say we've already paid it, but just give me a second, let me look at it.
It does show up in the August financials.
Right, so
I just
that's
wasn't
why I
sure if we
wanted
pay them
to.
once or twice, or if they were digging their hands a little bit deeper in our pockets for some more sewer. Like at home, we pay it twice, you know.
I pay it once, so I don't have to do it again.
I like that idea.
Which line item are you talking about, Jeffrey?
That is
541101.
5411.
Yeah, I think it's once a
Thank
year,
you, Jeffrey, for
Jeff.
answering my question.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ellen, for saving me. All right, that's good, and then I have one more. I asked this question, and just because I don't remember your answer, but 5280 retiree insurance. that number, as the year goes on, collapses back towards 100, right? Because the retirees pay in
Yes.
their portion. So what happens at the end? Are we estimating as we go, or how does that actually work?
So again, I'm much more comfortable with the number we have budgeted for 24, 25. In theory, you have a listing and then we budget, and then based on the number of retirees we had and the monies that they're paying us, we should kind of come close to zero. I think what you're seeing is we didn't come too close to zero. I think that's what you're saying.
I was just asking, I saw
No,
that.
no, I wanna answer it because I have an answer for it.
Yeah.
Because, we did have a little transition in the position that takes care of our benefits, and I just don't think we had the right number of people when of retirees. We didn't have an accurate number of retirees when we budgeted for it
Sure.
last year. And that's why I feel as though the individual in that position has done a wonderful job. We've actually sat and gone down and with a list. Now, of course, we have to do it in a date and time and draw a line there, which we did. But from that line that we drew, we had an accurate number of retirees as well as, other people getting the HSA payment also. So I'm very comfortable with our benefits department these days.
Awesome. My next one is 5220, which is Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah.
It was like a $200,000 shift, which would, in my estimation, would only be possible if we had a whole ton extra people.
So what's your concern on that?
Well, we were $200,000 over the budgeted amount for Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, I have an answer for it. I'm just thinking of how I wanna phrase it. So, I think we're gonna be low on that this year also, just by the kind of model. So it's a little art and science on this particular one because we sort of budget at 100%, but we know we're not gonna be 100%, so I try to adjust the Social Security and the Medicare because the board has to match it. So, I would expect to be a little bit over budget. I would expect to be closer this year. And again, that was kind of budgeted via historic numbers last year, so I think I still think we're gonna be in a deficit position this year.
Okay.
In that account, hopefully not as much though, but, yeah, that's,
But that's good to know. We'll know to watch for that. I won't ask you as we go.
yeah, no. No, but that one concerns me, already, but, I think we did a better job this year than previous years.
And I only have two or three small fast ones. 5622 electricity.
So we're talking last year,
Last year, yeah,
right?
5622 electricity was, I wasn't sure if it was new school related, if we hadn't been reimbursed, it was like
No, we've been reimbursed,
$174,000.
it's just the electric is a little bit higher than we anticipated.
Maybe I'll read, was that one a single month's payment, or it was like 25% of 20% of the overall budget for the year in 1 month?
Let me pull up,
And I'm asking in part for last year, but it also helps inform us for next year. If there's a change, we can help. We won't bother you with those questions because we'll know, hey, we're heading over, or there's.
no, I welcome any and all questions. Just some of them I have to go dig for them.
You can get back to us. We don't need the answer this second, Scott.
Okay, I will get back to you on that.
Yeah. And-
But it's an easy get, it's just gonna take me 5 minutes to find it and then, cause it's at a way lower level
Oh,
than
I'm
what you're
sure.
looking at.
589015, the mentor stipend. I know that's from the mentoring program, but I thought that was funded out of, we had to do that out of Alliance. It's the very last line item, I think, in the, before transfer out and transfer in, 589015.
Mentor stipend.
Yeah, it's the stipend they give, I think, the teachers to help.
That's,
You're looking
that's,
at-
he's
you're looking
looking
at
at
the
the
last
previous
year.
years, yeah, he's looking
Yeah,
at.
I'm still in-
I have
still
my,
in
I have my
sixth.
sheets with me.
And I just wasn't, I didn't
So we're
recognize
not,
that.
we're not talking about the packet that we have in front of us.
No,
We're talking
No, I
the
got
day
it.
he
He
sent,
sent
and then I
us.
forwarded to you on either Monday or Tuesday. Sorry.
No, it was like 16, I'm
Wasn't
just
in the
wondering.
packets when I was gonna
It's
send it.
16, but not that we didn't owe it, but it was just, I think it was, Kim
Oh,
had told us how the
easy.
program worked, and it was one of those requirements we had to pay out of.
yeah, I didn't get it either,
It's this right here.
Oh, okay.
Ellen, not that I need it right now, but I didn't get it emailed either.
We can get your copy, it's not a problem.
Forgot.
We'll get him a copy, no problem. No worries. Okay.
And we can look at, if that's not a fast day, I don't wanna
No,
hold
we can
Jeff's.
do that
you
next
can-
time too.
I just wasn't sure if it was an alliance, because it seemed to be, Kim always explained that it was, we have a certain amount of money in alliance, there's a percentage that we have to spend on employee improvement and,
Sure, I'm
which was
almost
great.
there. So. 2024.
So which one are you looking at, Jeff? The July 24 or June 24?
June 24.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Looking at the
So Lisa,
I was, what the hell is this guy talking
I'm so glad you're here. Do the names James Pepper, Melissa Stevenson, Dawn Palutro ring a bell to you?
Yep.
Who are they and what do they do?
Jim Pepper is a physical education teacher at the middle school. And Melissa Stevenson, and well, Dawn Palutro is an instructional coach.
What are they doing where they're gonna get the stipend? Because those are the individuals who are getting this
They're,
mentoring stipend.
they're team, they're probably team. Dawn is a team trainer and a team mentor.
Okay, so these individuals are not getting paid out of grant, they're getting paid out of general fund?
It's not related to
So it's not the mentor
the
program.
mentor program, that's all.
Yes.
Got it.
It's more related to new teachers and mentoring new teachers
Got
and
it.
team.
Thank you, Lisa, I knew you would know right off the bat, so.
Yeah, guys, team effort, I love it. And my,
And thanks Superintendent for telling me to bring my laptop with me. What else you got, Jeff?
I have one last one, 5650. And it might just be simple as it's in a wrong,
Instructional tech supply?
yep, I couldn't figure it out only because looking at the following months, I'm guessing it was probably from I'm not sure what it was. And it was.
Why we're in such a surplus position?
Well, why we're in
Deficit.
deficit position to that account. It was just, it was a low dollar amount account.
Oh, instructional tech supply?
And I wasn't sure if it was really licenses and warranties or something, maybe it's misclassed or, otherwise I was like, well, I wonder what we. Again, Scott, I don't need the answer today.
Yeah, that one I'll have to look into, but I know it's, I know what it's gonna be, I just don't wanna say it until I
Yeah, of course.
confirm it.
I think that's all I had.
But I know it has to do with the curriculum department and the IT department.
I have one and I ask it every meeting and I apologize.
Is this year end or current month?
Year end, 6:30. Other professional services, 5340.
I wish that could be named something else,
You know,
or teased out differently.
and I write it down every month and then I forget.
5330?
5340.
53,
Other
40.
professional services?
What is
Oh,
that?
that's
What's
a-
in it?
Sure. So, there's a few things in there. The heavy hitters are the legal and consulting fees. That makes up
But
a
that's a
big
different
portion
line
of it.
item.
And then other
it's
so
all
I'm
under
sorry,
5340.
there's two line items that make up over 95% of that. It's the special education, which is
Under
the
5340
services
PPTs.
for being placed for outplacement.
Right. That totals all.
So
Yes,
that's
yes.
a big one,
Yep.
which is 400,000 of the budget, and then
So this first line.
210,000 at least this year, these aren't last year's number, were for legal and consulting fees for expulsions and,
Right, but that's a
first line.
different line item.
Yeah, I
no,
think
but
it's-
it's still 5340.
Yeah, I'll read, can I?
534001 is,
Right, legal and consulting
Legal.
fees. Yeah, yeah.
but 5340 itself,
Yeah, that's the other professional services, the outplacements for special education is 95% of that, those
Okay.
dollars in that line item.
okay,
Oh, there, got it. Hence why they're unpredictable.
right.
These are they're not outplacements, they're
The services provided,
by a third party provider.
Yes.
So we may bring in,
And we don't know, because we don't set those prices, they set the prices, the
we don't
facility
know how
where
many
they are.
students
Correct.
are requiring them.
I feel bad for you.
All
That's-
coming
that's a-
back to me
It's a
now.
horrible label to have to keep for that count.
I know.
I don't know what else
Okay.
you'd call it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Thank you for
We
the
could be
explanation,
creative, I
Scott.
guess, but.
Anyone else have any questions on the year end? I think we covered it. And you'll get back to us on those two,
Yes.
okay?
If, just Jeff, if you could tell me what they were again, so I could. Electricity,
Marissa has
and what was
them.
the other one?
Yeah, Marissa has
Marissa
them.
has it, Scott, we can get
Okay.
it from, yeah.
Okay. Monthly financial. For 8/31.
Current month?
Yep,
So,
well,
Yeah,
August, right?
we were saying the same
You
thing.
like the summary again?
yeah, so the only things, I won't answer anybody's questions, but the only things I'll point out right now is you'll see a credit and the 5210 on the second sheet, which is health and life insurance, and those are the employee deductions going in there as credits. Which
Okay,
we're all aware of, so I just, if somebody had a question on what that looked like. We do have a couple that, just for the sake of time, I haven't got to go in there specifically and look at them, but I think on a couple, we just encumbered a little too much. That would, if you were to look at severance and retiree insurance, if my eyes are going across right. I'm sorry, workers' comp and retiree insurance, I just have to look at those
okay,
to a little closer this time, which I'll get to this month. If we turn the page to page 3 and we go down to copier services, looks like we're in the surplus already. I have to shout out Rachel, she jumped all over that. We should be correcting that later this week or next week, but before the end of the month, so.
Just because you mentioned copiers, could I mention something quick?
Of course.
The new ones that have been brought in are more of a low capacity and they're extremely slow. And it is really hindering our ability to be efficient with our prep time and stuff like that. So not all of them, but there's some of them that are a lot smaller and have really affected our ability to do our job with any kind of efficiency.
We can make a note of that to the company. That's a great
Yeah.
point, Jason. We'll make a note of that.
I
We're on
had
a service with them.
I had a teacher who was like, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes waiting for it to do my 125 packets. So the smaller ones that it seems like some of them were replaced with some more compact ones, and they're not very.
It's a good point. We can definitely make that to the company.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's all I really had. We're still early in the year, still encumbering. But if anybody has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them the best I can.
I don't have any, you answered what I
So nobody's surprised I have one.
I saw the smile, I wasn't gonna say anything. What do you got, Joe?
So you mentioned that I saw the credit for the 105,000. Doing some quick math, I would assume we're gonna see that number increase on a per month basis, because some people are paid over 10 months versus 12. Because that number all the way out would be a different number than I was expecting.
Considering it's the month of August, I would say yes, we should
That's
see
what I was
that
thinking.
increase going forward.
We should see it spike up and then be a different number.
I think it should be a relatively stable number once we get into the school year.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything?
Oh,
Oh, sorry, it's
Oh.
not done.
I had one from last year, I forgot. That's too late.
It's all right, that's not on my sheet, what do you got?
General maintenance. It's a Dean question probably, but I was happy to see that
What
we,
number?
general maintenance is 543003, I think, 02, 03? 03, from the 630 packet.
Yes, okay.
I was hoping maybe we could share, because that's great that we had some money to spend on it, that Dean was able to accomplish some. I'm sure it was helpful to you, Dean, to have some stuff to get.
What's the number? You gotta fill me in.
It was I think it was 100 and something, 147 was it on?
Yeah, 147,968,
That,
Those were current month transactions.
right.
Yeah,
So,
I was excited.
so,
What's your
yeah,
question,
so,
really?
The question is, do
so,
we,
well, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
We did do a fair amount of spend down in this particular month, so
Okay,
I
fair
would
enough.
attribute it to that.
no need to go any further than that.
Okay, we had to
Right, but we
spread
got a
the
lot
love.
done.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was, I saw.
Absolutely.
It was complimenting,
For all the
yeah.
buildings.
I got
it. You were
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is great, we don't usually get to do this,
And that's what it was.
Was
from.
there anything that, you got done that you wanted to share that was like, hey, this was awesome, that's all.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Thanks, guys. I'm out of questions now, no
An
more.
awesome question.
no,
Awesome
all good
answer.
questions.
Do you have anything? 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 Okay, moving on. Okay, because it's getting close and we're moving in January to the new building. And I know we set aside some money in the budget, but what about the anticipated expenses and how we're going to move,
Great
actual
question.
moving and such and,
Great question. If you do recall, I did bring this up previously, and again, I'll bring it up and ask for the board's help. Right now, we're looking into, I think we need everybody to get into a room and hash it out and resolve it, meaning the Board of Education and the building committee. So I would ask if the board would take the lead on that. Right now, what we're looking into, what Dean's looking into, is because we did have a couple preliminary meetings with Brian from the high school, Ed, because Brian had some concerns. The main one is moving the science area, right, because there's a lot of chemicals. So right now, Dean's looking into that, because it's not a quick lift and shift. We have to get people in because of, EPA, can I use that term?
hazardous, yeah.
Hazmat suits, though, so it is quite a seemingly expensive endeavor, so Dean's looking into getting a price for that right now, so
I
that,
have a meeting next week.
I
Wednesday.
still, as we sit here, would argue the fact, is it the Board of Education's responsibility, but that's why I think we all have to sit down and discuss it, because if you're asking me, Scott, do you feel as though this should be a building committee expense or a Board of Education expense, I would say unless there's something that precludes it, meaning if there's something in the grant or the 170 million that says you can't use any state money or federal money or bonded money to move chemicals, then yes, that would be on us, but other than that, I don't know why we're even looking into how much that is, and I would argue everything else also, even the move from central office there, because if central office was located in the old high school, we're still moving to the new high school. That's kind of a lift and shift. I don't think I'm looking at it too simplistically. I think I'm actually looking at it pragmatically, just, you know, I understand it's all taxpayer money at the end of the day too, but as far as the burden going onto the Board of Education's general fund, I have to ask the board to, you know, get a meeting together or make these questions or ask these questions during the building committee meetings.
Okay, so at the next building committee meeting, I'm on the building committee, I can ask what is in their budget and specifically what their,
I
what's
think that-
covered. But we also need a list and a timeline and, you know,
So that's the complex piece here.
Right.
Because we were very appreciative when the board upped that number, right? And we even said it last year at budget time, it's the unknown. So
Right.
we have moving expenses, some are covered by the new building, some are not, you know, and, you know, the one-offs, as we're calling them, as Dean is getting deeper and deeper and we're getting closer and closer to your point. I really do think, to Scott's point, and we've discussed this, there will be a meeting that has to take place. It's hard to say, however, we're gonna need an extra 300,000, let's just say, because we don't know, right? Because we know that we have that money that the board has increased, but we also have come up to some stumbling blocks of, hey, shouldn't this be covered under the new building? And then it's, well, no, it's on you. And that's the stuff we can easily take a list of, to your point. We just don't have a proactive list to foreshadow all of the things, because to Scott's point, some of
It's
the
work
things
in
we
progress.
assumed should be covered. Now we're finding out, hey, wait, but that wasn't on there. And there's no blame there, but it is a reality of, well, then who's paying for it, right? Does it come out of the contingency fund, and you sit on that committee, and you've heard that term thrown around, or does it actually come on the Board of Ed? So I would recommend and feel comfortable with, to Scott's recommendation of mentioning it at the building committee and saying, hey, look, the board has allocated X dollars, and we're willing to spend X dollars because the board has allocated it. However, what else should be on the new building committee? Because it can't keep going, that, we can't go over that number.
Right.
And that's the reality.
And it was
But I also-
150,000 that you all upped when we were spending down the money. So we do have 150,000 in our general fund for any moves, but I think the science piece might eat up a lot. And also, we have to look at also, a question for them is, do we have the amount of storage we need for all the files that we might have to store here? So I don't know if,
How long do we have this building for?
That's a great question, and that is the
Great
answer,
question.
Jeff, yes.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
As long as you want.
Technically, the Board of Ed, this is the Board of Education's building. So any document that I've read, it's not an immediate evacuation. So if we were to leave, let's say July 1st, just throwing a date out there, it's not as if we have 90 days to clear this out. But in order to be respectful of whoever's going to take this building over, I don't necessarily know how long you could just keep it and use this as a filing facility.
Yeah, it would have to be under our lock and key, it's our responsibility.
Correct,
We're
but
not-
I also think there would be an exit date in mind, right, just for purposes of,
'Cause this-
okay, we're out of here and now they can do what they want with the
Are there
building.
any records that we can actually,
So that's where Dean has scratched the surface of that. I mean, there's a lot in here.
I haven't seen it, I've only heard about it.
Yeah, there's a lot in here.
I can show you.
No, that's okay.
So
But
yes,
some
there
you have
is
to keep forever.
100%, and that's the issue, and that's what Scott's talking about. You know, we know that the new building is gonna be awesome, it's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be great, and there are cabinets for us to file some stuff, but there's a lot here.
Not that kind of volume.
No, not at all, and, you know, we're hoping to have a solution to that. Scott and I
yeah, I mean,
scratched
if
the
we have to go
surface
out
of
to
that.
Iron Mountain or something, then that's what we have to do. It'll just be an ongoing expense, which is fine. We don't like it, but it's fine, but we just really have to know what space we have and.
Well, we had that meeting with the city where they're looking into an
Yes.
alternate space for storage as well, and they would allow us to use that as well. But that was a preliminary meeting and nothing has come of that as of yet.
and we get a bill.
I don't know. We did not discuss
Can I
that.
say that
I'm
out
just
loud?
saying, perhaps. But at least we were included in the conversation.
Okay, so I'm thinking at least if we have a list, a list of everything that we can think of. And then we can see who's going to do, if it's on us or if it's on the building committee. Do you know what I mean? At least we're thinking ahead, we kind of know, like, the whole science thing, who would have thought of that, right?
So I think maybe Dean,
Another example would
Could
be
meet
like,
with Ed.
I think they're committed
Get
to
his
move
list.
all the
Meeting next Wednesday.
cafeteria, the ovens, the refrigerators.
Tuesday.
But I think it's on the Board of Education to move all the
The
knives and
rooms?
forks and
Oh.
dishes and, you know, pots and pans and the like.
Can't you just throw them in the oven and then they can move it up
was
to
the
the
other one.
refrigerator or whatever?
I don't know if there's certain rules when you're moving a stool.
I think Dean has his meeting
Property.
next week, so we can get he can get a better approximation of what's included in there.
Sure.
And then we can start putting our list together, Ellen. I think
Yeah.
you're 100% right.
Yeah, and the building committee meets next Thursday
Thursday.
also,
Yeah, so Ed and I are meeting next Wednesday. That's probably why he wanted to meet Wednesdays for the Thursday meeting.
Okay, so we can, okay.
Yeah, so next Wednesday
That's
we'll be
good.
meeting.
And also, we have to kind of think about what the teachers are going to bring, like anything personal. they
That's
pack up
already
and
been
do-
discussed.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what else we're bringing, but also if there's anything in the building that someone wants, we gotta kind of think about that, and tours of the community.
100% correct. I think as a full board, I would recommend that, and Dean and I have some ideas that other districts have done from a community perspective in terms of whatever is left in the building. But I definitely think once we are officially out of there, there should be some tours, and we have some ideas. We could definitely share them at this meeting. But what other districts have done, for example, is whatever is left, and that's after teachers claim some stuff. Because, for example, Sandy, because she is my favorite and she's sitting right here, or Jason, my second favorite. If there's a desk that you people want
Wow.
from the high school, if there's a desk that people want, they're gonna claim it and we're gonna use it internally. But let's just say everything's left now. What do we do with it? Other districts, and Dean and I have talked about this, have done a big walkthrough where the community can come and say, I want this desk, right? And they would have to then come and take it. We're not a delivery service.
Yeah,
And that's an idea we would definitely pitch to the full board, and if the board wanted to do that, because anything then that's left in the building, per the current contract, gets demolished with the building.
Right, and the building committee has a timeline for that, when they start.
Pretty quick
1
time,
month.
1 month.
Right, and we also have to think about here, what's here that's
Yeah,
going to.
so at least we have until July with here, but yes, agreed.
Absolutely, and even with but the community have been asking.
Sure, 100%.
Can they get into the old building and,
Well, I've had requests for tours.
Yeah.
And Mario from the building has helped out. He did a tour last week. I just got another request. They wanted to do a Saturday, but you can't because the school's closed. So we are, and Mario's looking into how he can kind of set it up. So we don't get 15 different tours. Maybe we can knock it out with 2 tours instead of him doing. And
Right,
it's him, by
yeah.
the way. He
Right.
I asked him to do it, and he did, the class of 78 did a tour last Thursday or something like that. And it was of the old school. They want to look
Yeah,
at the
old
old
school.
school.
but we also have to be careful, and I'm not sure if it's a policy, if we have to do a policy, but if I'm from the public and I come in and say, oh, I want this table, I really like this table, and I get the tour, and someone else comes in the week
Oh,
after, oh, I want this
No,
table.
it would be on those tour dates, so if we did the fire sale idea that we're talking about, that would be that very first one, and it would be public, that if you wanna come in, this is the day to come in and do it. And that's just an idea, because we have read
Yeah.
another district that did it, and there was some success with that. But rather than having this material be demolished. So we're gonna use everything we want internally first, because we have some furniture at our other buildings that definitely need to be upgraded. And some of the high school stuff is in better condition, so that's why I'm saying we're gonna do that first, and then that second wave. And if the board is okay with that, that would be everyone's opportunity to come in and stake claim to it, as opposed to then we don't have to hear, I came week 1, not week 2.
Right,
And it's
yeah.
just an in-kind gesture.
And that would be, they would take it.
Correct.
It's not selling, so we are not selling anything to anyone
Correct.
for any reason.
Correct. Because it's
Okay.
taxpayer dollars, and if the taxpayers wanted to stake
Right.
claim to it, they
And-
just have to take it. We're not a.
Right, and we
can't
also
hold
have
it.
to think about what we wanna give to the, Historical Society.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I wasn't anything or anything.
No,
to-
no, I'm not saying you
Yeah,
weren't,
yeah,
I'm just
no.
saying, put it
We're
on the
talking about like a
radar that
desk
we
or
need
chair.
to,
Yeah, and Brian has actually worked really well
Okay.
with Ed on that very thing.
so maybe we need, at the full board meeting, so the board and the public know that we are thinking about this, we have
100%.
been doing this, it's a work in progress, but then everybody knows. Do you know what I mean? It's not like,
Agreed.
I don't know what's happening,
Yeah, no, I agree. I
but
think
there are
that's
things
fair.
that are happening.
Yep,
And and any budgetary impact,
sure.
I remember from the last time we did this, there's also there's a bunch of paperwork that goes into this too. If you go to destroy things, you have to request of the state, hey, we're going to destroy these items. There's a whole bunch of paperwork that goes into, we did to do it when we closed East School.
right,
That this, hey, this stuff was paid for by the taxpayers, we're not gonna sell it, there's no salvage value. And then somebody over there in some room somewhere reviews it and says, yeah, you can do that.
right. So Sue Ferguson's a great resource for that, because,
So along those same lines, that's
She
why the
was with-
fire sale helps in the premise of people can take what they want
Mm-hmm,
before it gets destroyed, correct?
but a timeline would be, we need a timeline from Ed, so.
The other question is, like, last time we did this, the teachers and things all boxed up, all the district-owned stuff, books, anything that was owned by the district, and then they took home their personal stuff, so that, when they came back, they brought back only what was needed for the new room. We didn't actually move any of the personal stuff the first time. I'm not sure where that is in the process, and,
We have a moving company, so the teachers will box up their personal items, put their name on their box, and the moving company will move it.
we're gonna move the personal items this time.
Unless the teacher
Do they
wants to
get a
move it over
certain number of
themselves. They
boxes
do
or
get a
whatever?
certain
Okay.
number, yeah, Brian has
That's all.
communicated that already, yeah. And then the
So-
big box, so the Romeo and Juliet books, for example, those will, we have some teachers, some staff members that have boxed and agreed to box them. And then those will be moved by the moving company as well.
Man,
Plus all the theater,
That's a different
And
animal, but
sports.
yes, sports is, Dean has been involved with that. Sports have to go in a trailer for half part of the year and then be accessible for another part of the year. We were at a meeting a couple weeks ago on that very topic, so yeah, there's a lot of moving parts that are
lot of
going
money.
into it.
okay,
Well,
so then,
a lot of that, believe it or not, that's under the new building committee. So that's the part, those conversations were nice to have because it was on their dime, not on our dime, so.
Dean, if it's not too much trouble, I'll ask from the group, what are they asking us to move educationally from, besides like the chemicals I get, but you look at chemicals, does the cost to move them outweigh the value of the chemicals?
So,
Yes, and it's just a second part too, you mentioned we need to move plates. We have a brand new $180 million building, if anybody has a list of things that they look at and go, why are we moving 25-year-old plates to our new building? Please let the board know. You know me, I ask questions, I'll ask a lot of questions about that. It's a $180 million building, we shouldn't be using plates from 1973. So if you have that, somebody, you would be, sounds like.
Yeah, the only, the stuff that is being moved, the books, I mean, if you talk about desk, you talk about printer, none of that is going.
Oh yeah, somebody mentioned like the cafeteria plates, that's why that was the one that got me riled up.
So I mean, again, this is something that, that Ed has got a list of stuff, a very detailed list of what has to be moved.
okay, great,
Whether it lies on us or them is, I think, the question that's, we have to come up with, but during the building committee meetings, I mean, I think that is him and Mario have a very good handle on a lot of the questions that you just asked.
Okay.
Along with us, but I think that their end of it will be more clear coming from them on what they expect to move,
Absolutely.
as opposed to
Absolutely.
what we expect them to
Yeah,
move.
we can ask, I'm not even saying move it, I'm saying, should we actually even be using?
Well, that's, I guess, another story. for
Right,
me.
but
That's another-
we can address that, there's still time to address that.
Can I get
Okay.
a point of order here? I think we're getting a little off topic of our agenda.
Sorry.
We're supposed to be talking about the budgetary impacts and not the actual logistics of things. So if it makes more sense, would the logistics of the facility stuff that needs to be moved be better handled in the facilities meeting? We can create and manage this list between Dean and Ed, and any budgetary impacts we bring to, we can go into the budget committee meeting. that make more sense?
It's always
So,
that gray area
can we add that
between
to our
Should we add that to
agenda
your
item?
agenda? Okay, perfect.
And
Sorry,
that's
guys.
gonna prelude me into some questions I have noted here. So really, this move is gonna be two phases, right? High school goes first, and then phase two is gonna be the central office and middle school.
Second budget though,
Okay,
that's why,
Different budget year.
yeah.
And,
understood.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about budget years. I'm just talking about,
Oh, yeah,
there's two
phases.
There's
different
still gonna
things.
be an impact,
But-
right? Yep.
So,
but then you also have whatever elementary classes are going to the new, to what is currently the middle school.
That's the third one.
so there's the third one. Okay, so three different moves, and that's gonna be in the same budget year as central office.
Plus you
Okay.
have the shift of the elementaries, because they're going to be K3 buildings rather than 4-5 buildings. So you've got a lot of shifting going on in that
So
section.
there's a lot of shifting, so there's gonna be more, so that's gonna be more budgetary impact stuff on the district, that side.
And and to your point, Glenn, that line item, well, we said was nice that it was jacked up, that line item is gonna be significantly higher.
Significant, so that's,
Can we
pretty-
keep on going on this vein? I have another question.
I have the floor right now and speak.
I know, but can I ask another question before you go to your
Go ahead.
next item?
Go ahead.
Because it relates to this item. It hasn't been decided yet because the ad hoc committee hasn't made a recommendation or anything of what we're gonna do.
Technically correct, yes.
Technically, okay,
But I think
so-
that'll be determined sooner than later, yes.
Okay, so once that's determined, then we'll know, and, okay, that
Can
was
budget
just my,
appropriately.
right, yeah. Go ahead.
So we have two funding places to get money. We got the building committee has some money set aside to handle moves. We also have our little pile of money in the general fund. Can any of the surplus from his capital be utilized for moves?
I don't necessarily know that would be considered a capital expenditure, but I think if we change the formatting of the letter to say that we would like to possibly include that for moving expenses, and dog ear it, I think we would be well within our purview. Whether or not the city would allow that as opposed to taking that back as a straight surplus, I think that would be up for discussion. But I think in our letter, if we put the two primary sources, as Scott mentioned earlier, for IT and capital projects, and then with the caveat, however, if expenses to move exceed our budgetary amount, we would like to use it for that, we would cover ourselves in that area, which is appropriate to do. So I would, if the board would be the board's pleasure to add that sentence, I think that would be an appropriate sentence to add that would cover us. And
What do you
if
guys think?
people are opposed, we could then move it. But
Yeah.
I'll actually say I would be against that only because we're gonna have a discussion with the building committee, right? And you know how it is, if there's one pile of money here that somebody argues there's only a certain amount of, and there's a big pile of money over here. So that, my argument would be that we've already made an allocation to help. And if we put another $300,000 on the table,
No, he's
possibly.
not saying the whole thing.
Well-
It's gonna be earmarked for mostly IT and facilities with the caveat, if there's overruns for moving expenses, we can bleed off that a little bit.
It could be in the wording, that's just my thought, but let's not give the building committee too much enthusiasm, we have more money available.
I get that, but that brings us to our next topic, which might help out
it may.
in that respect. So there's a new, my understanding, a new.
He had still some.
I think
I'm
Glenn
sorry,
still
what
had
do
a
you
question
have?
on the floor, though.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
No,
I'm good.
if you have
No,
more.
I'm good.
Okay. So there's a new legislation out that we can establish, boards of ed can establish a non-lapsing reserve account.
Old legislation, new wording that we do not need city approval to do anything we want with that money, correct?
Okay. So when I Sue talked to me and asked if we could put this on the agenda. She's not here.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so you know
Yep.
more
could,
about it.
Scott and I have talked
Yes.
about this at length, so
Okay,
Scott, the
so-
floor is yours.
So the new legislation that passed allows the Board of Education or Board of Education to set up a non-lapsing fund without letting the city know, although they did stress it would be a good idea to let them know. But
Or is it
Yes,
a
so
fund?
what I'll need to do is set up a new fund in the system, and then any surpluses up to 2% of our budgeted amount, we could put into this non-lapsing fund, and we could actually let it build over time if we ever want to look into self-insurance, building a reserve that will be needed to do that, or anything else the Board of Education wants to spend it on.
Okay, and what's the number?
2%.
No, what's the,
Well,
Line item number,
the,
account number.
no, not the account,
whatever
the legislation, the
HB
number of the,
HB 5437, HB 5437,
okay,
AAC education mandate relief,
AAC?
Alpha Charlie.
AC education mandate relief, and it's under, I don't know, two S's put together, two S's put together, 7 and 8 reserve funds.
Okay,
So this is basically like a rainy day fund?
I wouldn't call it that, but
Okay, call it that.
what I would call it is, I mean, anytime there's money left in any account. So for example, Scott mentioned the $300,000 that we have to then dog year for capital and or IT. We wouldn't have to even make that letter to write. We would just make a motion to put it into the non-lapsing recurring. And then the following year, so if, for example, Rachel says, I need X laptops, and Dean says, I need 300,000 to finish the foyer, then the board would say, okay, from the non-lapsing account, we're going to give X to Rachel for IT, and we're gonna give Y to Dean. So it helps in terms of management, and helps in terms of budgetary items that either we couldn't account for because budgetary years are lean, and we
Special
would be
ed
able to use
education,
that. Exactly.
So then my question is, the potential for us to get hurt by it if the city does know what's in that account, and then saying, well, you've got that account, we're gonna cut your budget down by that amount.
So it's a great question. So the law talks about, the new statute talks about, that is meant for boards of education because they were never able to carry it, and they would always have to ask any municipality or city. So while you're right, people can view that and say, hey, you have X dollars, why would I give you what you asked for? The problem becomes meeting MBR. So if they would want to deduct us from whatever amount we were to keep, there's no way that they'd be able to meet MBR. So at worst, if you ever think worst case scenario, well, then what can they do? At worst would be a 0. So if you do a 0 after 0 after 0, which then from a city perspective and a town resident perspective, why would you not fund education? Why would you zero it for X years? Their defense would be, to your point, well, they have money in the non-lapsing, but the argument would be, wait a second, my taxes went up, right? And if taxes went up, and why aren't we supporting the schools, right? So there's definitely a linear, and when you look at it, that would really prohibit a municipality or a city or a town from doing that, just because of the MBR component. And if you don't meet MBR, it becomes a state issue. It's not a Board of Ed issue. So that's a great question, and that is always the fear, Jason. But if anyone were to take that and make it a reality, not meeting MBR is a more serious offense.
And that 2% helps to make it so that they can't meet that MBR, or?
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly why they upped the number as well. I think the lawmakers heard from a lot of boards of education that not even the 2% component, but does help there, but to not have those restrictions of the Board of Ed having to go to the Board of Finance, having to wait, having to do it. It just gives us that freedom to make this decision and move forward. But it's a great question.
Thank you.
And just one clarification, the 2% is really a max.
Correct.
So you
Right,
could put into
yeah.
the fund, there's no guarantee we're gonna have 2% of a year. So it's the max that we can transfer into that account.
That's correct.
And on the flip side, I know that a board being mindful of its duty to the taxpayers wouldn't inflate a budget to try and have money to go into that account.
That's correct.
At least I hope you wouldn't.
Oh, that's up to the city, really.
But your proposal would not include an intended inflation to try to have money going into that. And I don't see that from anybody here. Exactly, and not that you would put
No,
together that
no.
budget, or having the Board
I
of
could tell you I
Ed.
wouldn't, but.
Right, and to have the Board of Ed to then make those suggestions to do that. It's just that flip side.
absolutely.
Looking at the city side, looking at the Board of Ed side, and how that could play out.
And could those monies be transferred into the general fund as well to use as,
So once they're in the non-lapsing, there'd be no purpose to transfer it anywhere. It would just be dog-eared for the project that the board would deem appropriate.
Paid out for
So you
that.
wouldn't have to necessarily say, I'm gonna transfer 300,000 into electric to cover the electric. You can, but you might as well just say, I'm giving 300 to electric.
okay,
It's
So it's-
easier that way.
So it's not like a restricted fund?
Nope.
Okay. Are there any restrictions in the wording of,
Says for educational purposes.
Which is everything in our budget.
okay, so setting it up and all that, we would consult with legal?
Yeah, Scott has the documentation ready to go and set up the account.
Okay,
And legal has already informed us and instructed us, once we do that, and it was from more of an auditing perspective than a legal perspective, because the statute protects us legally, and Scott has the information to set up the account.
So
Jeff had his hand up
I was a
first, I'm
follow-up to
sorry.
your question is that if you, to your point, if you can use it on capital, which is where you were going with this, if you could take the money and have 300,000 left, you could transfer it to Dean to pay for capital. The MBR is not, the MBR is the total between capital and general, right? Or is it just general?
Just general.
So they could give us zero, if there's money sitting, they can give us zero for capital. You can use it for capital? There's no
Because it's an educational expense.
So technically, at this point, the fund would get created, but no money would go into it until the end of this current fiscal year.
That's correct,
Right.
because you don't know what the delta is.
Exactly. It's not that we could, that 300,000, it's not grandfathered to this past year.
No, it is not.
Okay. Hence the letter.
Hence the letter, exactly.
And we don't need a policy for this?
No, we do not.
This is my
Yep.
previous hat.
100%. 100%.
Any other
so
questions?
do we need, some kind of
Yeah.
approval to move this to the full board?
I would definitely make a recommendation to the full board to proceed with the setup of the non-lapsing reserve account. Similar to what we did
Agreed.
before.
I'm agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
All agreed, we'll send it to the full board.
Thank you.
And also, with the move, maybe something can be mentioned at the full board that
100%.
we're,
And I
like
think
in your
Dean will have
report
more
or in your- or
information.
whatever.
Yeah, I think Dean will have more information next week after he meets with Ed, but I can definitely mention that we have ideas in place and we'll have more of a list, to
so
your
that the
point.
public knows
Sure.
that we are thinking of all this, we are working on it, we just,
100%. Maybe Dean, as part of your report that evening, you can share where we are and we can discuss that. Yeah,
it doesn't have to be detailed, but,
understood.
you know,
Yeah,
we're,
bulleted.
we are working on it. We haven't,
Dean's usually a little light at the full board meetings. We'll make Dean a little heavier at the full
Alright.
board meetings.
See that?
Oh, thanks, sorry.
okay, topics for, yeah, okay, topics for future meeting, besides the monthly financials. Alliance, we haven't had an update on Alliance in a while,
It's coming to the full board. Donna had just finalized it, but
okay?
we can definitely have
No,
a
that's okay.
alliance discussion.
And grants, where we are with grants,
Yep.
I know it's the beginning of the year, okay, that'll be, okay, great. ESSER funds, we have to use them up by the end of the month?
That's correct, and the amount that we had left in there, we have a plan for, that's part of the plan that we talked about last June. But we can
Do
definitely.
you wanna bring that to the building, I mean, to
Yeah,
the
we can bring
budget
it,
next
sure,
month?
next time.
ESSER,
Absolutely.
okay. That's all I have.
I don't have anything to add.
Other than that,
Topics for you know.
Topics for future? Okay, comments for the good of the order. Esther,
Thank you for the question.
do you really mean that? Okay, good.
Absolutely.
It benefits us all.
Agreed.
Thanks for asking Scott so many questions. No, good
He
meeting.
got more than you got this time.
I know, I appreciate that.
Good meeting, happy for the start of the year. And also excited to see Torrington again so much in the news with this legislation or this recommendation towards legislation in regards to cell phone policy and being the district that kind of spearheaded it within the state and seeing the recognition that we're getting. So kudos to the team for that.
Good meeting. Good.
I hope I can say this here. I just wanted to thank the board for all the work that they did with the new insurance plan. That had to be a huge undertaking that, you know, you went out, found a broker, and you agreed on a plan, so.
I think a lot of that fell on Mr. Wilson and his team and Mrs. Predis. I mean, she did a lot of the legwork, you really did. We took in some of it, but I don't think a lot of
We
the
had
credit.
questions.
But I'd like to thank administration too for the work they did with that. It was a big undertaking and, we're hopeful that, you know, everything's gonna go smoothly with the transition. That's it, good meeting.
I don't have anything to add, great meeting.
Good meeting, thank you.
Marissa?
All set.
Josh?
Yeah,
enough tonight.
thanks everyone, and thank you for indulging with the questions
No,
because,
it's all good.
yeah,
Why we're here.
and we'll keep on keeping on. Motion to
So
adjourn,
move.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 7:02.